even just before going on the retreat, I wasn't feeling so good about sending those messages last week. Like 50 was like super hard for me. Like I just couldn't do it for some reason. But I just feel like I've already got the confidence a lot more now to be having those conversations and setting up those conversations. So that's why I'm excited about it.
Yay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good job. Molly, do you want to go?
So I think I got a lot of takeaways from it. I think the biggest one for me was like approaching my business like a corporate, like, with corporate verbiage, I guess. That one is huge because that just, for some reason, it kind of takes away that, oh, what if she thinks like network marketing is crazy or something? You know what I mean? I mean, not that it's bad, but just, yeah, I'm a sales rep for Wild Tree. So I don't know, that kind of helped me a lot. But I think one of the biggest things is like the calendar, keeping everything on a calendar in one place, because I really struggle with that. Like I want to do that and I try to, but then my brain goes, oh my gosh, where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of a thing. So yeah, that was so good. So good.
And Holly Cleese, I talked to her a little bit more about that too. And she said, what's interesting is what you'll find is that when you plug everything in, you probably, and she might have already said this, but a lot of times you won't find any white space. And that's where you have to actually decide to delegate some things. And I think Sonara was the one who said, if it doesn't require your personality to make it happen, then try to delegate it. Don't do those. And I thought that was a really good way of explaining it. So, I mean, I know that's sometimes easier said than done. And if you have a daughter like mine that can actually, you can delegate things too, it's really super helpful. But, some people like Katie have talked about getting a babysitter. Some people talk about getting an assistant, at some point in time. Because the time is worth so much more than maybe like the $10 or $15 an hour that you would pay, a babysitter or assistant or somebody to come over. So that's definitely something to keep in mind too. I'll be excited to hear how your time blocking and what does she call it? Time management and all that stuff is going when we talk on Thursday for sure. Awesome. Let's see, Danae, do you want to share your biggest takeaway from the weekend? And hi, by the way.
Hi, sorry. I was fumbling getting connected. So, but my biggest takeaway, there definitely were several of them, but I think getting my head back in the game, and yeah, just getting excited again. So a lot of times, you know the task, but somehow you just talk yourself out of it. So I've reached out to quite a few people and had conversations and have some callbacks to do, and it's a lot more just, I actually got up early this morning and set timers on my texting to people. So I sent them out right before I drove off to school, and then I was like, bing, 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 and I'm like, oh my gosh, and some of the numbers were coming up, and I'm like, oh, I forgot my paperwork, so like, who is this? Yeah. But I figured it out before I called them back, so. And I kind of faked it when they said, hey, because I answered, and I'm like, hey, I'm driving the kids to school. So that gave me an excuse to say, I don't want to run through any red lights, and they call you right back.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, who's this?
I'll give you a little tip on that, because that used to happen to me a lot, especially if I got in a zone of like cranking out the contacts.
That's kind of what I was doing. Yeah.
So I make sure that I say like, hi, Sally, da-da-da-da-da, instead of like, hey, girl, because then I'm oh crap, how am I going to go back and find, like it takes a little bit of time to go back and find that phone number. So then I figure if I put her name, it'll at least tell me who she is. And, interested or whatever, I'll add my contact.
Oops, I think someone's not on mute.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and I know that was a big deal to you, is to feel excited again, kind of like excited like you were when you got started. Yeah. And motivated. So do you feel like you got that out of the weekend?
Yeah, re-energized. Yep, better focus. Came home and worked on my calendar a little bit and color coding it and trying to get stuff in there and setting reminders and just trying to get myself. And I hadn't really touched I made my list of 100 contacts, but had just barely touched it. So I made a really good dent this morning on that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay, good job.
Yeah.
And then Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. We were just sharing our number one takeaway from the weekend.
I think solidifying my why and vision and feeling like my directorship, including Sonara, believe that I believe in my why.
Believe
that I can make director. And,
awesome.
And serious money.
Great.
And
we can't wait for you to quit your physician or cut down to 2 shifts a month and be making all that money. That's going to be amazing.
And seriously honing my toolbox too.
Yeah. Hey. Awesome. Did I miss anybody? I think we all share, right? I'm trying to think of what my number one takeaway was. I loved spending the weekend with you guys. Like that was, for me, just charged me back up. And then all the messages that have been coming into our messenger thread and even some text messages that people have sent me individually. I mean, quality time and words of affirmation are my love languages. So I was telling Molly this morning, my love tank is overflowing right now. I just feel like, I don't know. I actually loved this weekend so much. I almost feel like it was my favorite Wild Tree, conference, retreat, whatever, like just to connect with all of you guys on a different level. And then to have Holly and Sonara there was just amazing. And also to have Holly's girls. I thought it was really neat to have, a couple of girls from a different organization. And obviously you guys read Marianne's message that she posted yesterday. And it was such a great testimony and so neat that she was able to connect with a couple different girls, and for whatever reason, the timing, she felt comfortable to share. And that's what happens a lot when we go to like conferences and stuff, is like you connect with somebody you wouldn't have met otherwise. So I love that dynamic of having like some of the girls that weren't in our organization there too, and just hearing from everybody and connecting. Okay, awesome. So let's talk about, well, let's start with last week's lead, and let's see where you guys are at. And for the most part, especially the people who were at the retreat, what I've heard is like we're playing a little bit of catch up from last week's lead call. So don't even beat yourself up whatsoever. Just like you don't necessarily want to skip a step, you know what I mean? Because this all just kind of flows together. So if you can do a little double time, a couple times this week, that'd be awesome. If you could feel like you're sort of getting caught up and up to speed, but maybe you do a little bit of double time this week, a little bit of double time next week, and then you'll kind of be up to speed for those last 2 weeks of lead, to kind of feel caught up. But what questions do you have about last week? What have you learned? Just share with me anything you have about last week. The assignments, is everybody clear on that?
I kind of had a question, maybe just because I have such an overfull brain. For the 50 people that we're supposed to get in touch with, is it mainly to approach about the business first, ask about a party, do a customer, that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I was just kind of wondering, basically.
So make a plan to reach out to at least 50 people on your Hot 100 list. And then you're supposed to turn in a copy of your Hot 100 buckets to me. So just, you guys, if you haven't gotten that done yet, just send it whenever you can. Just be sure to not skip the assignments. So I would probably just kind of work on that and get through that task and then see how far you can get on this week's task going forward. But I did want to, I was hoping that most people would be able to listen to the lead call number 2, lesson number 2, before this Zoom, just for the people who have completed lesson 1, you know, because there are some people who have already sent their stuff in for that, out of town gals that weren't at the retreat. But I know being at the retreat obviously took up a lot of time that you guys could have cranked out and stuff. So yeah, and really you're going to be reaching out to people, put them in bucket number 1 if they fall into the opportunity bucket, bucket number 2 if they fall into hosting, and bucket number 3 for meal solutions. And I mean, I suppose you could have a little dead end list on the side for people. I mean, you like, it's likely that you'll have somebody who doesn't fall into any categories. Actually, it wouldn't be a dead end. I would say if you have someone who doesn't fall into one of those 3 categories, write their name on like the back of the piece of paper or on a separate sheet of paper and ask them for referrals. So use them as a referral source. And even if it's just like, they might know of a vendor event that's coming up where you could get some connections that you wouldn't have known of before. Or, I mean, if you ask them, who do you know who's really well connected, who has a ton of contacts, who, you know, is an excited person, and maybe even somebody that is looking for more in their life, more flexibility, more income, whatever. Does anybody come to mind? You know, so use them as a referral source for sure if if they don't fall into any of these categories. And frankly, even if they do fall into like the meal solution category, I would still ask for referrals, you know, because they might know somebody who is great at hosting parties or the business opportunity would be perfect for. And then did everybody print out your Wild Tree tracker last week? The thermometer? If you didn't print any of this stuff yet, make sure to print it out. And I love the Wild Tree tracker. Looks like this. It's so cute, and it's just so, whoa, sorry, I'm trying to make it clear, but you know what I'm talking about. There you go. Yeah, and so you just want to print that out. It's really like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a visual person and other people might not be, but I think a lot of people are visual, and there's something really gratifying about like filling that thermometer in as you get the sales, and then as soon as you get a bonus qualified rep on your team, including yourself, because it's you plus 2 others, you know, I'm pretty sure it has a spot for, yeah. So you can do, you know, when you're bonus qualified, write your name there. When you get your first bonus qualified team member, write her name or his name. And then your third, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I have my 3 BQ'd reps. Like now we just need to focus on getting this volume up for the month, or vice versa. Maybe you're getting a lot of sales and then you're like, ooh, I'm short on a couple of these. It kind of just helps you with what you need to focus on, you know, for the next couple of weeks, and just keeps it in check. It also shows you a lot of times like how much closer you are to reaching your goal than you imagined. Like Danae, we talked about the Rhode Island trip, the homecoming trip to Rhode Island. I mean, she said to me 9 days before the end of the incentive, I'm not gonna make it. Like, and it's okay. You know, she's so sweet, right? Danae, you're always like, and it's okay. I'm okay with it, you know? And then it's like, okay, well, hold the phone. Like, let's get this tracker out. Let's see where you're at. And she was so much closer than she even imagined and totally made it happen. Like thanks to her, I got a free trip to Rhode Island with her. We went to Newport, saw the mansions, rented a car, like an absolute blast. Stayed the night in the airport, all these things. But honestly, that tracker, I feel like made such a huge difference. If I didn't have the tracker, I would have still sat down and said, Nate, you're closer than you think. Let's map this out. And I probably would have drawn up a little bit. But these things they work. Because a visual tool works. So make sure you're doing that. And then make sure that everybody who's on the call, I think for the most part, we've all connected during our PC, personal conference, I guess they're calling it, our coaching call. But just be committed to being on that call on Thursdays. So set the reminder for that, because I just have you guys call me, because it's like you only have to remember 1 phone call. I have to remember, 14 phone calls or whatever it is. So it's so much easier if you guys just call me at your call time, and I'll hop off the other call and we'll get going. And then you're on the Zoom call right now. And if you're not on it, you are probably listening to the recording. So that's great. And thank you for taking the time to do that. And then be sure to complete the survey at the end of each lesson. Okay. So that's lesson number 1 overview. Lesson number 2.
Yoda.
Yes.
Can I interrupt?
Absolutely.
Sorry. So I was looking, do you not get the next video until you've completed the step? Because I didn't do the survey on the first step because I haven't reached out to all 100. And I still have a lot of like I'm still waiting to talk to people. So I don't know like how many are going to go into host or opportunity or solutions, on the little survey.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can't truly really answer that because I haven't, but I still want to move forward. So,
yeah. So I think you can just say complete step. You want to say hi, Deacon?
Hi.
hi.
Just got home from preschool. I think that you can say complete step, even if you haven't. And then
Okay.
you can just go back to the survey. Because I just went back through that stuff. I haven't done the survey either. And it let me move on. And then this week, so obviously, well, not obviously, but this week is focused on recruiting. And so I feel like you guys, especially those of you who were at the retreat, I know there's going to be other people watching this that weren't at the retreat, but holy smokes, you guys have some awesome confidence. You've got some great words to use. You're excited. Like, don't waste that energy and that momentum that you got from this weekend. I mean, it's a proven fact when people come back from retreats and conferences, like they're more successful. So keep that momentum and that excitement going, just like you guys have been. I've been getting so much feedback from everybody about like, I've been reaching out. I have follow-up calls scheduled. Like you're just excited and people are going to hear that excitement in your voice. So make sure to move forward with that and be reaching out to people. So yeah, I think that you guys, honestly, this week's lesson, it just helps you with last week's action steps, because Sanara just goes into some of the things you will have just heard this past weekend because she was with us. But I loved listening to it again, and I feel like I'm going to listen to it twice this morning, and then I think I'll listen to it again because it was awesome. She had so many great tips to share and reinforce and all those things for your recruiting conversations. So like your last week's task was still about starting with recruiting, right? So so listen to this week's call if you haven't already. And then if you haven't completed your 50 reach outs, that's okay, because I mean, that's what we're going to be doing. You're going to be reaching out to 50 people a week forever if you want to be successful in this business and you stay with Wildtree. I mean, like that's what you want to do. This is just a habit to start. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And as you're doing that, do the, fill in your buckets and do all those little handouts and action steps, and then just get them to me, as soon as you're done with them. But I love this week's lesson. I mean, she gave so many great, there's just the handouts are great. So who has had a chance? I don't want to put anybody on the spot because I totally get it. Don't feel bad about yourself if you're not caught up, but sure. Has anybody, I'll go into my office, it's a little bit quieter. Has anyone listened to the call and printed the documents? And does anybody have any feedback they want to share or questions?
I listened to it this morning and considered everything. And I looked at it because I kind of did both at the same time because I would do that. But I like how it just focused on, are you mentally ready to create? And what do you need to build your confidence? And like writing out things that you're going to say ahead of time, writing out reasons why people don't make business and why they shouldn't, and giving you making you practice. One thing that I really liked that we did at conference that we should have done maybe was the role playing. Like really the role playing with the recruiting helped me so much after conference, and still to this day talking to people. Like it makes you feel more comfortable. It makes you think ahead of time before you get on the phone. What am I going to say? What if they say this? What am I going to say about this part? And I kind of like how she gives you things to say and makes you write out, okay, so what are some reasons for joining Wildtree? And the recruiting cycle makes you deal with objections, which honestly, that's everybody's biggest fear, is somebody's gonna say something, doing this or whatever. And I think that's, even though she really didn't talk about that, but you have to practice it. I think that's one of the biggest things for me is practicing that. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Totally. And I thought about you right away, Molly, when I saw today's video, because I remember how impactful the role playing was. So I know we didn't get to that. Sometimes it's hard to get to everything just based on how the flow of the weekend goes. But I would encourage you guys, we have our lead message thread. Why don't you find somebody on that, somebody else in our organization who's participating in lead, and just team up with them. Just send them a private message, and maybe you connected with somebody different this weekend or whatever. Why don't you team up with them and try to do some role play this afternoon or tomorrow or whatever, just to practice. And I think if you're making your list and you're really, something that is helpful to me is like when I'm making a list and I have a person in mind that I'm going to be having a recruiting conversation with, I think about what I know about that person already, any conversations I might have had with them if I've had any sort of conversation. Then I look at the recruiting cycle and I find out where I am in there, which gaps I'm missing. And then I basically have that conversation out loud to myself before I call the people. And I do the same thing for my demo on the way to parties. You guys, most people know that I say my demo out loud in the car on the way to parties. It's a game changer. My head's in the right place because I'll kind of mess up and I'll be like, okay, whatever, I'm talking to myself. I look like a crazy lady, but who cares? And it makes me feel really confident when I get there because I feel really clear about what I'm going to say. And so I think saying it out loud as many times as possible, even if you're nervous to say, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Do you see yourself still being in this job, or would you like to be somewhere else? Say that over and over and over out loud while you're walking around your house, say it while you're driving in the car. The parts that are maybe a little bit uncomfortable for you, say them out loud as many times as possible, and go through that cycle of recruiting. You hear Sonara say it on all of our training videos all the time. It's the same thing. Just be like her and just keep practicing and saying it out loud. So it's super, super helpful for sure. Thanks, Molly, for sharing all of that. Does anybody have any questions about this week coming up or have an issue on
I was really excited about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that. That helped a lot. So I just went through my Facebook friends and started writing people down.
Awesome. Will you hold that up again and then just tell the people who don't know what that is, what it is?
Can you see it very well?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically the United States cut into 4 different columns here. So then you just go through your friends list and, especially the out of state people. So you can really write them down. I just think it'll really help to just go down the list and say, oh, you're from here.
Yeah. So awesome. And then Sonara's given such great words to use for reaching out to out of town people.
Yeah.
Again, the more times you have that conversation, the more it's just going to flow. You're not going to think about it. It's just going to come out of your mouth. Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions about anything having to do with lead or anything from the weekend? Just anything in general? You guys are so quiet. I think everybody shared so much this weekend that we're just ready to get to work. Okay, so who is committed to promoting a team leader and being at Rise in February?
I am.
Yay!
I am.
Okay, I'm waiting for some more people to chime in here.
Yep.
I'm going to say
Absolutely.
I am and hopefully can get there.
You can.
You can get there. You can get there. Say, I will be at Rise in February. That's what you need to say every morning.
I will be at Rise in February.
Yay! Yeah. Holly, where are you?
You're a day early with Yota.
You're coming a day early?
With Yota.
I'm actually, no, that's something else. I was going to say I'm going early for the director retreat in June. But yeah, if anybody wants to be at director retreat in Nashville in June for the CMA Fest, you've got time to promote to director. Yeah, I'm going to bring my kids to that one. So we're going to go early for the concert. It's going to be awesome. But you guys, I already have a plan. You know how I like planning fun stuff and coordinating things. So I already have it all figured out for Nashville. So I hope that, you guys are going to be there. So I can't wait to celebrate with you guys. It's going to be amazing. Leadership is awesome. And like being at a leadership retreat, Danae can tell you, not a retreat, but a leadership conference versus a national conference. Like, what would you say, Danae, to that? Like, as far as the comparison?
Putting me on the spot.
Or even just in general, what is a leadership conference like? You know,
well, I think that you just get a little bit deeper training and like, you know, conversations and focus on kind of like what we did this weekend. It's just a little bit deeper for, you know, learning the skills to be a team leader, actually having those conversations. So, yeah.
Yeah, and awesome, thanks.
And the tools, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you next anyways, Jennifer. So let's see here. Unmute. Are you trying to unmute, Anna? Okay, there you go.
I'm driving, so thanks for doing that. I would say that it's being shoulder to shoulder with other people who are in or wanting to grow in leadership, not just sell taco seasoning.
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, it's like separating the big fish from the whole pond. You know, so you're, I mean,
a little more like-minded.
Exactly. And like, think about the conversations we had this weekend that were amazing and impactful. So you're at leadership and everybody around you is trying to accomplish huge goals and huge dreams. It's amazing. I actually went to a leadership conference before I went to a national conference just because of the timing when I signed up. I couldn't afford national conference. It was too soon after I had started my business. And oh my gosh, like I remember meeting Sonara. Like you guys have already all met her, but I remember being in the lounge in Rhode Island. That's where our trip was. And meeting her and just like being starstruck, but also just like sitting there asking questions of all of these directors and just asking probably stupid questions even because they're like, why are you focused on that when you should be, you know what I mean? But it was just like some of these conversations I still remember, like they stuck with me after 4.5 years. Like there's just something about, like Jennifer said, you know, rubbing shoulders with the top people in the company, which we were so beyond spoiled to have with us this weekend. Like basically the 2 top people in the whole company. So awesome. And and like Danae said too, just the, you know, people who are really wanting that leadership and wanting to grow their business seriously. So it is amazing. And then everybody knows Nashville is my favorite city. So it is fun for sure. So yeah, I'm excited to support you guys and help you reach your goals and definitely be in Nashville. So I'd write that on a sticky note or somewhere. Like, actually, I loved, who was it? Was it Holly Cleese that said, so go home and print all the brochures. I was thinking about Karen Lott because of her fishing boat in Alaska that she knew the name of the charter company and all. I'm like, holy cow, that's awesome. She's got this totally detailed. She knows where she wants to go. So like going home and printing, like go on the internet, print the brochure, print the registration to sign up for your fishing trip, you know, but like print off some Nashville stuff. Like what are the things you want to see in Nashville? Like, you know, just all this stuff, put it in front of you, whether you make a vision board, you stick it on your bulletin board, you have it on you just write something on a Post-it note, but the things that you want, the goals that you're trying to accomplish, and then, you know, the conferences and all that stuff too, have it in front of you because that you don't forget about it when you see it every day. And I would encourage you too to have visual reminders of the things that you guys wrote out in your vision and your why, you know. For me, obviously that'd be a lake cabin. But everybody has their own. For Molly, it'd also be a lake cabin. But you know, whatever it is, just write, like have a piece of, like cut it out of a magazine, print it off the internet, take a picture of something, whatever you want to do, but keep those things in the forefront and then read those really strong vision, you know, things that you wrote up at the lake. I think those were amazing. So anyways, well, does anyone have anything to add or questions or thoughts?
I have a quick question. With the Hot 100 buckets,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming we just keep continuing as we're going through people. Do we put them like once we actually spoke to them and like figure out where they are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's sort of like your result bucket.
Okay.
And I was actually confused at first too, but the reason that I was clear on it is just because it was like, do not prejudge. You know what I mean? When you're making
right.
And be sure you're starting with the opportunity. So after you talk to them, put them in a bucket. And then if they didn't fall into one of those buckets, I think ask them for a referral and just, maybe have a list of the people who are giving you referrals. And even if they're like, oh, I need to think about that, but like, definitely I will, I'd love to help support you. Then you'll have that, you'll be keeping track of it. So, to follow back up with them like, hey, just reaching out to see if you've given any thought to the referrals that you might have in mind, or, people that I could reach out to. And what Sonara does is she just has them connect her through Messenger. So like a 3-way message text type thing, on Facebook Messenger, like, hey, Sally, I gave your information to my friend Sonara. She's looking to expand her business in your area. I told her you're awesome, well-connected, have a great personality. So I'll let you guys take it from here. So that's a good way to do that connection with the referral. Because I know that's kind of the weird part is like, okay, she has a referral. How do we go from here? And I've had a few people who have said, well, I'll reach out to these people. And if they're interested in talking to you, then I'll connect you guys, like, because they didn't want them to be blindsided or not. So, whatever, that happens. But I like Sonara's idea of trying to keep the ball in your court as much as possible, and then you can follow up with whoever you need to if you kind of have everybody's name on a list somewhere. So essentially, unless they're like, hell no, don't talk to me, I don't want to know anything about Wild Tree and I don't have any friends to share with you, then put them away, you're done with them. But if there's any, like Sonara said, if you're ever going to be getting back to them, put them somewhere. Put them on your calendar, put them on your list, somewhere that you know to follow up. Because he is definitely going to follow up. So really good question. Any other questions or thoughts? And then would you guys mind just emailing me your stuff with like the subject line lead documents or something like that? Just put lead in the subject line in anything you email me that are like your homework stuff, because then I can just search my email real fast and have everybody's, you know what I mean? And then I'll just keep them in a folder together. It's a little bit easier than having someone text, someone messenger, and some on my email. They're in one spot. But yeah, so let's have the goal to be that you guys it'd be really great if you could get through last week's and this week's by next Sunday before the next video rolls out. I think you'll feel really good about your actions and your confidence level will go up because you did all those activities. So let's make that the goal. And then, life happens. So I understand if you don't get through it all, but let's try. So any other questions, thoughts? Okay. Well, you guys are awesome. Thanks again for spending your weekend with me last weekend, and for the sweet gifts. I love the gifts, so thank you, and the words. But I'll talk to you guys on Thursday, and just totally feel free to text. Text is always the best way to get a hold of me real quick. So if you have any questions between now and then, just send me a quick text and we'll connect. But good luck with your reach outs, and I hope you guys all have some new team members before we talk on Thursday. That would be awesome.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.